All right, today we've got an amazing story for you. It's all about how a team tried to tackle a really serious topic, educating Gen Z about climate change, and turn something that felt like digital homework into a super fast, super fun, and yeah, a wildly successful mobile game. So let's dive in and see how they pulled it off.
I mean, what a question, right? A team in India decided to run with this idea. They were trying to reach a generation that's always online, but totally tunes out the usual doom and gloom messages about climate change. They saw that health and environmental risks from our food choices were climbing, so they had to figure out a way to make all that complicated data feel, well, like something you'd actually want to play.
So, this all kicked off back in May 2024, and the problem they were facing was crystal clear. Young people in India, they knew about the climate crisis, but the usual lectures and pamphlets just weren't cutting it. So, the real challenge was to build an experience that was not only fun, but lightning fast, and, really importantly, felt connected to their own culture.
And let me tell you, the goals they set for themselves were incredibly ambitious. The game had to let you make climate friendly food choices in real time. It had to be super fast. It had to be genuinely enjoyable. Oh, and it had to somehow juggle a massive data set with over 200 different food items, all on a mobile phone. I mean, that is a huge task.
But here's where the story gets really interesting. Their first few attempts, they were a complete flop. The feedback they got was pretty brutal, and it was always the same thing. Even though the designs worked on a technical level, playing them felt less like a game and a lot more like homework. So, check this out. Their first version was literally a spreadsheet, and it was a slog. We're talking a painful 10 minutes just for one turn. From there, they made a board game which cut the time down to 6 minutes. Then a desktop version got it down to 3. So yeah, they were getting faster, but the core problem was still there. It just wasn't fun. In fact, it was so unfun that with the desktop version, the success rate for Gen Z players actually plummeted by a staggering 80%. Yeah, this wasn't just a tiny setback. This was a massive red flag telling them their whole approach was just wrong. And this piece of feedback from a student gamer named Kunal, well, it just says it all. Can I have something where I don't have to scan lists and can actually play it with two hands, anywhere and anytime? He hit the nail on the head. The game wasn't built for how they actually play. They don't want to scan lists on a laptop. They want something they can just pick up and play, you know? So, staring failure in the face, the team did the absolute smartest thing they could have done. They just stopped. They stopped guessing what players wanted and actually started to listen. And that simple shift, from designing for their audience to designing with them, that became their big aha moment. So after talking to more than 25 players, a few things became crystal clear. First, the game was just overwhelming. Throwing over 150 food cards at someone all at once? That's just confusing. Second, it felt cliché. The gameplay felt like a generic Western strategy game, not something that resonated culturally. And finally, they were on the completely wrong platform. Laptops are for work, or maybe deep dive gaming, not for the quick, casual fun they were trying to create. And this is where everything shifted. That feedback helped them reframe the entire project. They stopped thinking, let's build a game, and started asking these brilliant, how might we questions. Like, how might we make decisions faster? How might we make the interactions more physical and engaging? And how do we let people play anywhere, anytime, with zero friction? So, from clicks to bubbles, what does that even mean? Well, this is where the real magic happens. Armed with those new questions, the team went right back to the drawing board to build something players would actually fall in love with.
Okay, so they landed on these three core breakthroughs that just changed everything. First, they totally scrapped the boring static grid and went with this awesome kinetic bubble burst mechanic where meals would fall down the screen. Second, they brought in cultural design, using circular cards inspired by traditional Rangoli art, which felt way more familiar. And third, smart filters. They limited the choices to just 4 or 5 at a time, which completely eliminated that decision paralysis.
And get this, they were so dialed in that they even tested 2 different versions of the bubble idea. The first one was fun, sure, but it was still a little too slow. The winning version was faster because it automatically sorted the food into categories for you. It was all about making the path to the fun part of the game as short as possible. And what you get is a perfect example of what happens when you actually stop and listen to your users. They didn't just tweak the old design, they threw it out and built something completely new from the ground up,
all based on what the players themselves had told them.
So, did it work? Let's get to the good part, the results. Because the numbers here tell an incredible story. This wasn't just a small improvement, it was a total game changer. Okay, first up, player success rate. Remember that awful 20% from the desktop version? Look at this. The new mobile game shot that all the way up to an incredible 90%. That is a massive turnaround.
And what about that goal of making it fast? Oh, they didn't just meet it, they absolutely crushed it. The average time it took to make a decision was slashed by 80%, from that tedious 10 minutes all the way down to a super quick 2 minutes.
And this wasn't just some little prototype anymore. The game became so popular that it was featured at a big sustainability hackathon at IIT Kanpur, where it helped educate over 10,000 students on making better food choices.
And, success like that gets noticed. It actually brought in some serious investment, $30,000 in seed funding from the MIT IITK Seed Fund, which means this whole amazing approach to education is just going to keep on growing.
And I think this quote really gets to the heart of what the team learned through all of this. Novelty isn't about inventing new widgets, it's about making movement meaningful. Real innovation, it turns out, isn't about the tech itself. It's about understanding what makes us tick and creating experiences that feel right on a human level.
So this whole story is just a fantastic example of what can happen when you stop lecturing and start playing. It really just leaves you with one big thought-provoking question. What other complex, boring problems out there, things like personal finance or civic engagement, are just waiting for someone to come along and make them fun